Hey, welcome sleepers to another Sleeper Wire show. Today is March 10th, 2018. That's right, we're just a couple of months away, guys. We got the draft coming up. We got all kinds of things going on. It's still football. Football's all year long. We don't stop.
No.
Do we, Hus?
No, we do not.
Have you been mocking?
Oh, what?
Have you been out there mocking?
Excuse me? Of course. I mean, it's in my blood. Like right after I won my championship, one of two this season, I went out and mocked, and it was irrelevant. It totally meant nothing. As the days come on, it starts to mean something as we start to look at who's going to go where in the NFL draft. It's fun. It's the funnest thing in the world, along with trading, some fun trades that came out today. Love it. I'm just glad we're closer to it.
Well, a junkie's got to get his fix, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, because that's what I do too. I'll mock just because I have to. It's not about wanting to. It's because I'll get the shakes if I don't. It's good stuff. So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to go ahead and score a few teams, about half the league. We're going to talk about the kind of things that they need. And heck, a lot of these things were addressed today, and we're going to talk about that in the news. Cleveland was a busy bee today. They picked up Tyrod Taylor and Jarvis Landry. And how many first-round picks did they have to give up, Hus?
They didn't have to give up. I mean, even though I think they gave up 3 in all, but
none of them were in the first or second round.
Right. They were all later round picks. They still have the first and the fourth. They're still probably going to grab Barkley and their quarterback of the future, and they're still, Hugh Jackson is still going to have his week 1 starter. He said he wasn't going to start, a young guy week 1. He doesn't have to. He has Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor ended up the number 18 fantasy quarterback last year. He's got weapons if they do decide to go with him. He's not going to, be the guy they're going to go with. Obviously, they're going to bring in someone else to, kind of the other guy. He's going to test the other guy. But, man, the Browns are in good situation right now. But I feel like we're always saying this, and and the fantasy season rolls around and something else. But they really look good right now.
Well, I think this all but guarantees that they're grabbing Barkley in the first. I mean, the first pick, they're going to grab him. So this is the very first time that they've actually had this. I mean, Myles Garrett is amazing. He's a defensive game changer, right? But they haven't really picked up that offensive game changer yet. And I really think Barkley will be that guy. And you put Tyrod Taylor and Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, David Njoku. I mean, dude, this team could be for real. I mean, the Cleveland Browns could actually be decent next year.
Yeah, nothing to laugh at anymore, at least on paper. And the great thing about it is, they're going into the offseason still with the first pick, still with the fourth pick, and whole of offseason. They've got some cap space. They've got a lot to do, and they have a good offensive line already. They've got some things that are already very good.
They even snagged up Demarius Randall from the Packers.
Yep.
I mean, they're solidifying the spots where they were hurting the most. Their defense wasn't all that bad last year.
No.
And Myles Garrett wasn't even there for most of the season. So, I mean, I really think the Browns have a good chance of being the worst to first. I mean, they could really turn this season around and become very competitive. Another big deal that kind of happened this week, we had DeMarco Murray get dropped off.
Right.
He's out there in free agency. What do you think about that?
I mean, DeMarco Murray, these were all like writings on the wall if you've been paying attention to football, just anything. It's not a huge surprise. It's great for Derrick Henry if nothing happens, if they don't address anything, if they don't add any other pieces. It's huge for him. As far as DeMarco Murray, at this point, you'd hope for him, if you've been a fan of him from the Dallas days, to, when he had a bad year, then he broke out and won, and kind of surprised everybody to kind of depress everybody again this year. You kind of hope for him to have another bounce back year, but I don't know. I mean, at this point in the off season, I don't know. I feel like he's just going to be a backup at this point.
See, and that was my next question is, do you think he'll actually go and be a starter somewhere? I mean, there's a few potential places I think he could land and be the starter. But I agree. I just don't see him being more than a backup for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I mean, if Barkley goes to the Browns, as everyone expects, he has a potential, a few landing spots, a lot of landing spots, maybe the Giants, maybe, the Colts, maybe. But I mean, it's just too early into the offseason, but it's fun to speculate for sure.
Another kind of a minor deal, Mike Evans re-upped. He got a bigger contract.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like he's sticking around there for a while. Yeah, I really think that he had a bad rap. I was talking about this on the Facebook page with one of our followers on there, and I was saying about how the guy, I really, honest to God, believe that the week 1 bye frazzled that team so much that their whole entire season just collapsed, because I think they were walking out the door ready to kick some butt and just couldn't do it. They didn't get to do what they initially were going to do against Miami, and everything after that fell out of place. So I think Mike Evans will actually be a pretty cheap wide receiver 1 next year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's, with a lot of things that you said, he's definitely going to be a great value for on draft day, probably around a late second, third, rounder. And he definitely could provide first-round potential for you because we've seen it.
Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and roll right into the evaluations. I was kind of writing these up. I mean, you can agree or disagree whether or not you think the grades are good on these. So we'll just kick it out and we'll say Arizona. I gave Arizona a B+. To me, they need a quarterback, and they're in the hunt for Cousins right now, and they'll likely trade up if they don't get him for like an elite draft quarterback like Rosen, Josh Allen, somebody of that caliber. But you still have David Johnson, you still have Larry Fitzgerald, and you still have a fairly solid defense if everybody can stay healthy. What do you think about that grade? Do you think there's a lot more improvements that they need to make?
I do, actually. They seem to always have a good team to go for it. If they're able to bring back Larry Fitzgerald, if they're able to bring in a quarterback that's of the future for them, their defense have always fair, top 10. I think it's a fair grade. It's a little high for me. I'd probably give them a C, a C at this point, just because I think there are a few things that they do need to address. But again, it's still early in the offseason.
Right. Yep. That's all this is just kind of where they are now and to what they can, what do they need to do to make them a better team as far as a higher grade? Like, so, I mean, to me, if they get, say, Josh Allen on that team changes everything for the Arizona Cardinals. He's he's got the arm to get those way fast, deep guys. And then when you got a guy like David Johnson to lean on, you can make a lot of big things happen. And he's back next year, and he'll play like he's been gone. I have a feeling he's going to have just a explosive season. Next up, we got Atlanta. I got them as a C, and they really don't need anything. What they need is they need their studs to play like studs. I mean, they've got all these great weapons on both sides of the ball. It just seems like once they lost Kyle Shanahan, they lost the recipe on how to play football and how to win. They need to kind of go back to the books as far as how he did things, incorporating, Tevin Coleman, Devonta Freeman a lot more often, and things of that nature. So they got to see, because I feel like their coaching is just so poor.
They've got some needs at guard, so, they've definitely got some defensive needs. Obviously super great on offense. Like they have Sanu, they have Julio, they have Freeman, they have Coleman. Matt Ryan, I think he's in for a bounce back year. They've got that, weak spot at offensive line. Sherwitzer, he wasn't really, the greatest. Hooper still needs to, have another boost. There's been a lot of hype around him. But, yeah, I think that's another fair grade.
Yeah, I just hope to see kind of some of that high-octane offense come back, man. That was just a scoring bonanza for fantasy. We got Baltimore. I gave them a B. I think they just need really a good, solid number one wide receiver. I think Flacco's still serviceable. I think they really found something in Alex Collins. Macklin just didn't do it for me last year. I mean, he had a few big games. When he was in there, he was catching touchdowns, but it just didn't seem like that big breakout number one. So I feel like, Perriman was one of the guys I was really high on at the beginning of the season, and of course, he got injured. But he seems like at the end of the season, he was starting to kind of get involved a little bit more. But I still feel like they go grab somebody. I don't really think that they're going to make too many moves in the draft that are going to be significant, like team changing. But I do think they'll probably take a quarterback because Flacco's starting to get a little bit ancient up there. I just think they're going to have to start addressing their future now and hopefully still be able to make a few more runs for that Super Bowl.
Every year, in the offseason, this is opportunity for people to, teams to make a stamp on what they could potentially do in the future. And I'd love to see Calvin Ridley fall, to the Ravens. It's kind of late. Yeah, but at the same time, it'd be a great spot for them. Their wide receivers have not really done much other than Mike Wallace and that, one route, which is vertical for them. They only have Perriman, and Perriman, this is his 1 year to prove it. He's got to be healthy. So if, they're fortunate enough, to get Calvin Ridley, I think he'd be the best, option for them in peace. They really don't have anything at this point.
Yep. As far as the offensive weapons in the receiving department, like I said, I like Collins. I think he's going to be a great fit. But they're just going to need to get a few. One guy that kind of let me down last year that even when he got healthy and came back was Danny Woodhead. He just didn't seem to pop. But I really feel like that was more Alex Collins than that was Danny Woodhead. I think he was becoming so involved in doing so good that that's where it came down to.
Man, Alex Collins was a beast.
Alex Collins was a beast, dude. He earned that spot, and I think you're going to see him be a significant fantasy producer in the near future. And it's going to be one of those guys next year because you're going to be struggling for running back in about the third round.
He's going to be
so I think that's going to be one of those guys you can get a little bit later that can really give you some high return on that value. Hell yeah, sleeper.
Sleeper alert.
Sleeper alert. Sound the alarms. Okay, so next up we got Buffalo, and I gave them a D. And what I think they need is a solid quarterback. And after today, wow, they're going to need one because Tyrod Taylor ain't coming back. And a solid wide receiver one. I don't think that they really addressed this last year. They've got Zay Jones, Jeffries. They got some players there, but just not anybody that really excites you, that pops off the charts. And so with that, I think they'll probably go for Cousins as hard as they possibly can now. And if not, they'll definitely try to trade up in the draft to get one of those elite quarterbacks because they need to address that position and that wide receiver position. If they can get Cousins soon, I bet they draft a wide receiver.
Yeah, they'd be fortunate to grab one. But, hey, what do you think about this? The return. Sammy Watkins.
I could see it. I could honestly see it.
He's a free agent. I think, a lot of people are saying that he's going to get a big deal. But I don't know. Maybe he won't, and maybe he returns back to Buffalo. They have nothing.
Well, to me, he just doesn't really have the value that you're looking for if you're looking for a top-tier wide receiver. So, then you got to go to name value. And, where does he have higher name value than Buffalo?
At least he fills the seats. At least fans can bring out their old Sammy Watkins jerseys, right?
Yeah, that reminds me, too. We kind of skipped it in the news, but we can talk about that real fast. Is how about the Rams? God, they're going to be tough next year.
Oh, man, they made a ton of decisions, great ones, I believe.
I'm all in on the St. Louis Rams next year, man. They're just – and, they just completely trade rate the AFC West. Still the two best cornerbacks almost in the game, in my opinion. They're going to be hard to pass on, and they still have Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp. Just the list goes on. They're tough.
Woods just makes it so easy for them to – he makes it so easy for them to not tag him and, and all those things. And Robert Woods has been so good So he's another one that's just really great.
The next up, we got Carolina. I give them a B. I really think that the only thing that they're missing is a solid wide receiver one. And I almost don't even feel that they're really missing that. I think Devin Funchess can actually make a pretty good move and become that guy. I think he's got the size, I think he's got the speed, and I think he's got the talent. And furthermore, I think he's got that relationship with Cam Newton. What do you think?
I like Funchess, but definitely not as a one. He's just doesn't create enough separation for me. He can go up and get the ball, but for me, it's more the separation thing. He doesn't create enough of it. I feel like he did most of his work when there was nothing there. When there was absolutely nothing there, that's when he did his work. And as soon as guys started getting healthier again, running backs started getting healthy, Greg Olsen got healthy. As soon as that started to happen, Devin Funchess really became that number two guy. And I really can't envision him being a number one. He's just way too slow for me.
See, and I feel like he was starting to get it figured out towards the end of the season, but I definitely can agree with that. Like, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
He's a great piece in your offensive arsenal, but by no means I don't see him as a number one wide receiver in fantasy, at least, or even for just football relevance.
Right. Next up, we got Chicago. And despite how much I hate to say it out loud because of Nick, I gave these guys a B+. And I think they just need their quarterback to develop a little bit more. And, they've got a great running game. They need wide receivers.
Right.
You give them about 2-3 good guys right there. This team might actually break out. They've got a solid defense. Defenses create offenses. They've still got Jordan Howard.
Yeah, they definitely need wide receivers. They need tackles. They need defensive ends. They need cornerbacks. Kevin White's not, he's been a bust. I don't think you can really rely on that guy. That's a fair grade, even though, yes, Nick would want to throw stones at you.
I think that's better than the C I wanted to give him, is more what I was thinking. Next up, we got Cincinnati. Man, that team's a mess. I gave them a D.
Oh, man.
They just need everything. They need a more adaptable running game. I think Joe Mixon will actually be a good fantasy producer. I think AJ Green will be a guy that you're picking up, and you're happy with the production that he gets. But I really think that it's maybe time to move on from Andy Dalton and see what McCarron can bring to the table. What do you think?
You know what? I used to be in love with the Red Rocket. I used to think that he had potential and he could do this and he could do that. He's had times, he's had opportunities, and I just don't, he needs another opportunity somewhere else. I'm not writing him off. He just needs to be somewhere else where, Lewis is not involved, possibly, because it's not a good, situation. They definitely need to move on. They need to do something else. AJ Green's a beast, and I agree with what you're saying. The running back situation is very good there. They have Gio, there, as a compliment, and it's a good situation there. But they do have a lot of needs aside of everything else. They've got good running backs, but they need everything else aside from AJ Green. Good running backs and one good wide receiver.
Yeah. Absolutely. And maybe, like I said, maybe give somebody else a chance to throw those guys the rock. Like, 100%. I think that might be their cure. We got Cleveland up next, and I gave them a B+, but man, I got to give them an A. I think they're set up. They're set up.
Yeah.
They're going to get Barkley.
Yeah. It's looking beautiful. It's looking, man, if they don't mess this up, if
they don't Cleveland it.
Yeah, if they don't Cleveland it, they're finally going to be set up for success. This is what you want when you're starting a job, as a new GM. They still have to go out and execute it. We're going to wait and see, but yeah, right now that's a great grade. It's not overzealous at all. At this point they have to show
Yeah. Nope, I completely agree. I mean, it's one thing to have pieces, it's another putting them together. So that's what they're going to have to try to do there is try to get those pieces put together in one good mix, be able to lay it out and be able to win games. And
What
I
do you
think
think about Jarvis Landry though now in the Browns? So fantasy wise, because we touched on it news wise, but what do you think about it fantasy wise? Because the guy just was a top 10 wide receiver in PPR.
well, and let's talk about who was throwing him the ball.
Right.
He did that with Jay Cutler, throwing him the ball.
Right.
I just can't imagine. You have Tyrod Taylor now, and I mean,
At
it's
least to
just
start.
I mean, to start things out, you're going to start out with him. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous how good they're set up. It'd be hard to mess this up. I can say that it will be hard to mess this up. Although, again, if you don't have chemistry, it's all for naught, right? Like, I mean, if they don't all get along or anything like that, then everything can go away. But if these guys all decide that they want to play as a team and win, they're going to be hard to beat.
Sky's the limit for them.
Fact right there. Next up, we got Denver, and I gave them a C-. I mean, we need a quarterback. I say we because that's my boys.
Right,
Denver.
right. Yeah,
We need a quarterback. We need a running back one. I think this is the team that gets Kirk Cousins. I really do. I think Denver, John Elway has proven in the past that when he wants something, he gets something. So I think Cousins actually becomes a Denver Bronco. I think they try to trade up for a running back one type caliber guy. Obviously not going to get Saquon Barkley now. I mean, to me, that's off the table. Cleveland picks him one. But I think Denver could actually turn it around. They actually have a decent defense. And again, that's what wins games. You just need to have somebody that can actually score and not lose, 7-3 or 7-6 and things like that. So I think Denver can do good.
Yeah, I definitely don't doubt it. I would love for that to happen for Denver because Demaryius Thomas, I was on Sleeper Bot. Someone asked about Demaryius Thomas, and they posed a question about if Kirk Cousins goes there. And I was like, dude, he's borderline at least borderline one again. I mean, he was a borderline one last year with terrible quarterback play. He was a 16 in PPR. So, you add a decent, I mean, the guy is elite, bar none. He just hasn't had an opportunity to have a Peyton Manning there, or not even a Peyton Manning, just a decent guy that's throwing him the football. So, I mean, you have that there. You have the compliment of Sanders. They definitely need a tight end. You guys definitely need a tight end. You need a running back. There's other pieces, that you can address. But on the offensive side, that's, I think, your primary needs at this point. Elway, has, he hasn't really had the most success in the draft. So far. So I mean, it's you hope to just some free agency at this point.
Yeah, no doubt. Next up, we got Detroit. I gave them an A-. Man, they need a powerhouse running back. To me, you just have such a lack from Zenner, Abdullah, Riddick. I think they'll actually try to shoot for a free agent veteran, and I think they'll probably trade out Abdullah to make this happen. And I think if they do that, you've got a Super Bowl caliber team. I mean, you got Stafford, Tate, Jones. I mean, look what those guys did last year. Ebron even kind of started turning it on there a little bit. I think you give these guys a running game.
Right.
They need a defense, too. They need a lot of defensive help.
Yeah, I mean, this is another team that, they need pieces. They're great in a lot of, in some areas. On the offensive side, yes, but on the defensive side, they need to definitely bolster it a bit. They could definitely use a running back. The tandem they've been using right now has not been successful for them. In fact, I haven't seen a running back that has been great for them, and this probably sounds crazy, but since Drake Bell,
Right.
since Drake Bell was here. Since Drake Bell was good there, not
at least
Drake Bell,
consistently successful.
Right, and not Drake Bell like his last year there, or like but during his like good years there, Drake Bell was at least able to catch the ball, run, score touchdowns. He was their all-purpose back. He actually helped me win a fantasy title back in the day. That's what they need. They need a guy that can do everything for them. that whole, I love what Jim Pop Cooter does. He's great, but I think he needs to go, towards the old style of leaning on one back instead of that. One of the newer style, what they've been doing in the past couple scenes, but it just haven't seemed to work with Riddick and whatever compliment.
Right, spell the guy out when he's tired, but other than that, keep him going. Yeah, I completely agree. Next up, we got Green Bay. I gave them an A. Aaron Rodgers is back. Their needs are all defensive. Their defense has just holes galore, but it really doesn't matter when you can put up 54 points. In my mock draft, I noticed Jordy Nelson going about third round.
Third for you? Man, I've seen him go in the fourth. I've taken him in the fourth round. And I was just like, what are people – what is going on?
I think everybody just has a short fantasy memory, man. Like they think, oh, Jordy Nelson burned me all season last year. Well, it's because his right hand got cut off in an accident, and now it grew back. So it's funny, not for nothing, but I follow a lot of respectable people on Twitter, and I've seen some things that just made me just question, people's, and it just kind of made me think, like maybe I'm just, maybe I'm behind, maybe I'm just, maybe I'm giving Jordy Nelson a pass, and maybe these other guys are writing him off appropriately. 5 touchdowns in 3 games with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't do it. I can't write Jordy Nelson off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he's old. The guy is stellar. He's not Des Bryant. He doesn't have and no shade to Des Bryant. Des Bryant doesn't have Aaron Rodgers, but Jordy Nelson has Aaron Rodgers. And when they're both healthy, Jordy Nelson is a number 1 to 5 at least in fantasy. Number 1 to 5 meaning number 1 receiver 1 to 5 every year. Look at the numbers. Usually it's number 1 or 2. So I don't understand how people can just write the guy off. It's kind of ridiculous. I'll take him every day. Yeah, 3rd round, 2nd round. It's insane. Love it, though. I love the value. And I'm hoping that people are still down on him at this point next year, but probably not.
Yeah, nope, I completely agree with that, too. And that's probably a big problem. Me and you agree all the time. Because me and you have the same. I mean, look at Rashard Matthews. But you know what? We were right.
Right.
Just throwing that out there. We were right. If you had Rashard Matthews, you were pretty stoked.
Yeah.
Next up was Houston. We gave him a B+. I feel like they need a running back 1, but I feel like Lamar Miller can be that guy with the quarterback there. I mean, like, they're coming out. Deshaun Watson, I mean, dude, that guy is good. Makes everybody around him good.
Yeah, I mean, when Deshaun Watson was playing and Lamar Miller was playing at the same time, Lamar Miller was a RB1. He played his best football with Deshaun Watson at the helm. Now, Deshaun Watson was a rookie, just as Dak Prescott lit the world on fire a year prior. We, will preach to all of our fans, and we don't even need to, because the fans that we have, the people that listen to us, they know already enough. You don't take quarterbacks early. But there's a lot of word of taking Deshaun Watson in the 2nd round.
I think he might be worth it. I mean, if you look at his production, he is a first rounder.
That's too risky. I mean, if you're basing it off of what he's done in his rookie year, and although I like what I see, I don't believe my eyes lied. It tells the truth a little bit more than RG3. It tells the truth a little bit more than a lot of these other guys that come before him that have come proven quarterback 1 numbers, but then in their second years they've done it. But the eyes are good, but at the same time, I don't know. I've just seen too many guys that come before him that have done these same things, and there's just too many other guys that I'm just not even willing to. I'm not grabbing Rodgers in the 2nd round. And Rodgers every year, Rodgers is the greatest quarterback in fantasy football, bar none. Like, there just is. The guy's scoring 40 touchdowns, 30 high 38s. High 38s, high 30s. He's
high 38s.
High 38s. The high 38 in 7 quarters. Like, he's doing that. every year. But like he's just always on fire. So I don't see why people would take Deshaun Watson so high. I love Deshaun Watson, but going back to Lamar Miller, he has people behind him. And at this point, there's talk that they're going to release him. Although I love him. I've had him on a lot of teams, and I love his talent. I've loved him on, he's failed at a lot of his attempts, be it health or whatever you want to blame it on, he's failed at it. And, there's, the rookie behind him last year definitely showed better chops. If he's healthy, he should get the starting job, and Lamar Miller should probably be more of a PPR back, kind of just more of a passing down back.
Do you think Deontay Foreman's a good sleeper for next year?
You know what? I think at this point, sure. At this point in the offseason, yes. But I think at the beginning of the, you roll around August, I don't think he'll be a sleeper anymore. If they do anything and he's healthy, I think he'll be the starter, or if he's not named the starter, if they're talking about Lamar Miller still being the starter and he's healthy, that's when you can completely give the nod.
I can definitely see that, and that's why, like I said, that was one of the issues I addressed was the running back one spot, because I don't really feel the confidence there. Although with Deshaun Watson, I feel like you could put quite a few people back there, and they're going to have a lot of success with that offense. So,
right, 100%.
Time will tell, though. Because you're right. Now you have film on this guy. And that's a huge deal. Look at Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's a perfect example of what happens in your first year compared to your second year when you've got guys that get paid millions and millions of dollars to try to stop you. So, they come up with these game plans, and now it's on you, the rookie, because, I don't care if you're in your third year, you're still a damn rookie, right? You still don't have the full grasp of the NFL. That's about when it really starts taking off, if it's going to take off. So, you might see a huge regression. He might actually be just a huge trap. I think you're right there. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, and I think that was, also a good call of you also alluding to that point as well.
Excellent. Well, hey, man, that's about all we're going to have for today, Hus. We've broke down quite a few teams. We're going to do this again next week. We're going to break down the rest of the NFL. We're going to talk about the team's needs and what they're going to do pre-draft. Man, that draft has got me excited. I'm pretty pumped. I think the biggest reason why is because I'm such a huge Josh Allen, go Wyoming fan. And I think this guy has the potential to go number one.
Yeah.
Although now that's not going to happen,
right?
Because we know that it's going to be safe. it's you could almost set that.
Well, you know what though? It's not out of the realm of that they go ahead and grab their quarterback that they want, because they get to pick the quarterback that they want, because the Giants do need a quarterback. So say. They're thinking about, we want Barkley, and the Giants are like, you know what, look, there's some free agents out there. We're all right. We also have a couple of, we also got Gallman that we kind of believe in, Gettleman kind of believes in him. We might be all right. Let's go out and grab our quarterback of the future, our top choice. Now, what if that means grabbing the Browns' top choice? So as much as there's been a lot of hype yesterday and today about grabbing, Barkley, solidifying him as the Browns guy, we don't know, and so this is the fun part of the offseason. There's a lot of time to speculate. The trades are fun. The offseason, the draft is fun. And we're going to break it all down here. So definitely return next week. It's going to be some good stuff for sure.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Also, speaking of great stuff, that was a segue right there. The winner of the autographed certified Michael Crabtree jersey from our sponsor, Pristine Auction, is Nicholas Lejeune.
Nicholas!
I really appreciate everybody who entered. We had quite a few of them, man. There were so many of them out there. And we're going to get in touch with the winner. We're going to get you all those details out there, guys. But thanks for everybody who sent those things in. Keep those reviews coming. That's what gets us up there. Put us on top of that map we need on top of that map so we can give more people this advice. You don't have to tell your league mates, but get us up there. Head over to the sleeperwire.com page for our rankings, podcasts, submit questions through the email on there on the site. Guys, we're doing some big things this offseason, so keep up. Pay attention to that website.
Try. And you guys can find me on SleeperBot, always on there. You can also find me on Twitter. You can find me both Prophet Hus or SleeperWire Hus on Twitter.
You can find me at Dr. Kane on Twitter. You can find me on Dirty Jobs on Fantasy Life, on the SleeperBot app. Heck, you can find me in Wyoming. You got about a 1 in 500,000 chance. Yeah, I mean, so just ask for Mike. It's you're 1 in 100. Yeah, it's actually a lot easier than Waldo. There's no trees or anything to hide behind. I'm that guy standing there with Cowboys hat.
You're the winner.
That's it. And thanks everybody for listening. Have a good night.